What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here from DFS Army, and we are just a week and a half or so out, and we're taking a look at Fanduel NFL Week 1. This is your first look. All right, welcome back, and welcome back to the 2022 NFL season. Couldn't be more excited. I've been spending all my time over at DFS Army doing back testing, rerunning our Domination Station Optimizer, the entirety of the 2021 slate, trying to hone in on the best settings, just improve my game, flex the old DFS muscles, get back into the game. But week 1 is upon us, so we're jumping right into it. We're going to take a look at NFL Fanduel week 1 salaries. Just get a first look at the overall slate. But before we even look at Fanduel, we got to take a look at the game cards. And I'm using the game cards over on sharp.app, my favorite sports betting advice and content website. And let's just take a look at the games from week 1. And this is how we get an idea of which games to target, which players to target. And right off the bat, we've got this Saints Falcons game, 42-point total, fairly close spread. This game might play a little bit to the over. I actually kind of like it to go over 42.5 points, but this is still a very low spread game. So going to be careful about using too many players from this one. Just in general, don't want to be game stacking that necessarily. Cleveland, Carolina, another really low scoring projection. Again, another game. I don't really think this one's going to play to the over, but 41 points. So let's be careful about going overboard with that particular game. San Francisco, Chicago, 41 points. Remember, we're really looking for games to target with totals at least 46 and a half points. Normally that's more of a, I'm going to caveat it with, that's for me a bit of a mid-season approach, right? Like week 3, 4, 5, when those sports handicaps, those game handicaps get a little more honed in. Early in the season, they could be wildly off as well. So I don't want to use this as the end all be all, but our research has definitely found we want to target games with higher totals. Here's another kind of low total game here. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, 44.5 points. Not really looking like where we're going to get a lot of great fantasy production. Here's a game I like a lot. Philly, Detroit. Let's keep this one in mind. 48.5 point total. Close spread. Eagles, 4-point road favorites. Like that. Here we go. Another kind of mediocre game here. 45-point total. Colts look like they might blow out Houston again. I think Houston's going to be a little bit better this year than people think, but week 1 is a tough ask for them. Miami, New England, 46.5. Okay. We don't have to run or hide from this game, but it's also not super attractive. Baltimore looking to smash the Jets, 44.5 point total. Jacksonville, Washington. Again, another game I think might play a little bit to the over, but still 43.5 points. So we've got a lot of games not to target. Where are the good games, right? Tennessee Giants, 43.5, buyer beware. I don't want to go crazy on this game either. Low total. Another game I think could play to, I think week 1, we're going to get a lot of games to play to the over, to be honest. But here we've got an exciting one. KC, Arizona, 53.5 points. So this fairly close spread. KC, 4-point road favorites. I really like a game like this, especially on the Arizona side. They come out firing. KC's going to answer. So let's keep that in mind for some of our builds. I just like it. I like both sides of it, but I definitely like the Arizona side in a game like that at home. Here's another exciting total game. Vegas taking on the Chargers. 52-point total. Close game. Chargers at home, 3.5-point spread. Devonte Adams, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, lots and lots of exciting players in this one to consider. Even Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a bit more of a Draftkings guy than a Fanduel guy for me, but I'll get into the scoring system in a second. Let's just kind of get through these games here. Green Bay, Minnesota, again, 48 point. I like it, but I keep remembering last season when the Packers just shit the bed week 1. Like, they were absolute trash. And they came back. But, like, is that a pattern? Is Aaron Rodgers going to play shitty in week 1 and come back? I don't know. but it's got me a little nervous. I like the Viking side of that game quite a bit. I like them that they're at home. I like the Vikings to cover the spread here. Sorry, Packers fans. I just do. And then we've got Tampa, Dallas. This is a fun game. Is that the night game? That is not part of the main slate. So erase. Yeah, that's no good. Be excited for that showdown, though. So we'll talk about that. But now that we've got a bit of an overview of the games themselves, right? And a couple games to target. We like KC, Arizona, Green Bay, Minnesota, Raiders, Chargers, right? Eagles, Lions. Those seem to be the primary games with sort of totals over 46 points. So, remember, we want to target quarterbacks from those kind of games. We want to target wide receivers. We want to target players from those games. Now, I've already done a DraftKings first look, so I want to explain the difference between DraftKings and Fanduel real quick. Sorry if this bores you, but this is really important stuff. Fanduel and DraftKings purposefully pursue a different approach when it comes to daily fantasy football. And it's important to understand the differences as you build lineups between the two sites. Fanduel definitely tries to appeal to the more casual player. And by that, I mean their scoring system, their setup, and the way they set their salaries up, they're designed to benefit the more casual player, where DraftKings is designed to benefit sharper research, more analytics, and that kind of thing. So what I mean by this is DraftKings has two components that sort of differentiate it from FanDuel. The biggest one is the full point PPR versus half point PPR. You might think that's not that big of a deal, but it is. So one of the things we can predict with, I guess, relative accuracy is volume, right? Volume is something that's somewhat predictable in NFL DFS. You know what's not predictable, though, or less predictable? Touchdowns. Those are, events that are just less predictable. They happen. There's a lot of, I don't want to say luck, but there's a lot of sort of variance in touchdown production. One week Derrick Henry can score 3 touchdowns. The next week he scores none. And it's just weird things that happen on the goal line. So touchdowns are less predictable. FanDuel's system emphasizes the touchdown very much so over receptions, but not just receptions, also yardage. DraftKings gives a bonus for a player going over 100 rushing yards or over 100 receiving yards. Now you might think that's no big deal, but it is a big deal. It's a 3-point bonus. And again, it comes back to what I said before. We can predict volume, and with volume, we can have a pretty reasonable chance of predicting, for example, which player will go over 100 fantasy points. I'm going to give you an example. So Cooper Kupp. All right, he's not showing here, but Cooper Kupp, we know he's a beast, right? Last season was destroying every single slate. So I'm going to give the same hypothetical box score, and I'll talk about the difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, right? So Cooper Kupp, 12 receptions, 105 yards, no touchdown, right? On DraftKings, 12 receptions, 12 fantasy points, 105 yards, that's 10.5, 3-point bonus, that's another 3, so 13.5. So 12 plus 13.5, 25, 26, 25 and a half fantasy points. So Cooper Kupp doesn't score a touchdown. Kind of a disappointing game, but still puts up 26 fantasy points, which is a pretty good score, over on DraftKings. Got the bonus for the 100 yards. I don't know if I did the math right. Again, 12 receptions, that's 12 fantasy points, 105 yards, plus 3, 13.5, 12. Yeah, 25 and a half fantasy points. On FanDuel, that same box score, 12 receptions, 6 fantasy points. 105 yards, 10.5 fantasy points. So he's got a 16.5 on FanDuel. 26 on DraftKings, 16.5 on FanDuel. No touchdown means that's a very disappointing score for a stud player. Right? On DraftKings, you're like, all right, he got me almost 30 fantasy points. He didn't really destroy me. On FanDuel, the 16, and he had a great day. 12 receptions. He had an amazing day. Didn't get the touchdown. You got a shit score on FanDuel for the most part. So keeping that in mind, FanDuel purposefully set up their scoring system this way, so we embrace it. The other thing that FanDuel does that DraftKings doesn't do, and I won't get into this every week, but it's week one. Good reminders, right? The other thing that FanDuel does that DraftKings doesn't do, the way they set their salaries up, you really don't need to pick what is essentially a turd on FanDuel, right? On FanDuel, you could build a lineup that looks like your fantasy football season-long lineup, right? Good players, every position. We don't have to find the who are the a Devin Duvernay or a Donovan Peoples-Jones that just happens to go off that week. We don't need to do that. We don't need to find a 3K player that explodes. DraftKings kind of, the way their salary sets up, you have to do that. So FanDuel, more fun format in a lot of ways, a little bit easier to put lineups together, and less a lower shark penetration, a lower shark let's say advantage compared to DraftKings. A lot of good things, a lot of good reasons to play on FanDuel this season, and always, right? So now let's get right into the slate. And starting at the quarterback position on FanDuel, we'll take a look at the very, very top. And of course, most expensive here is Pat Mahomes in that very sexy KC Arizona game. There's Kyler Murray on the other side of that game. I like both these guys in this spot. I might even like Kyler Murray a little bit more. I'm a little concerned about Mahomes sort of getting up to speed with his new weapons early in the season. I'm not sure I want to pay top dollar for quarterback. I also want to mention, if we're playing cash games, I really want to avoid the most expensive quarterback if I can. There's a lot of variance. There's actually less variance at the quarterback position than there is at other positions. So if there's a cheap quarterback, that's usually kind of who I want to do in cash games. And we'll look for some cheap guys as we scroll down the list. But of course, in any sort of hybrid lineups or tournament lineups, Mahomes is going to be interesting. Mahomes is interesting this season as a stack because you could pair him up with these cheap wide receivers. So you don't have to pay for Tyreek Hill anymore. It's like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Okay. Sky Moore, what? Juju Smith-Schuster, not priced very expensively. So stacking Mahomes last season was really difficult because you had all of these really, really expensive. Well, it was just one. It was Tyreek Hill and the other guy was Kelsey, but it was expensive to stack him last year. This year, there's no Tyreek Hill, so we don't have an 8K player that's sort of looming in a an 8 and a 7, a very expensive stack. This doesn't win. Lamar Jackson at the Jets, sure, why not? That's all I could say. I don't think he's going to need to do much. It's the Jets; they're not very good, but it's the Jets, and Lamar could also put it on them. So GPP only play. At that price point for me. Herbert at home against Las Vegas, sure. Again, this is a great tournament play in my mind. Justin Herbert can go off for 40 fantasy points anytime. You must get this guy in tournament lineups. Stack him. I really like the price of Mike Williams, so we'll be able to stack him with Mike Williams in week one. He can also be stacked with Austin Eckler and, of course, bringbacks on Vegas with lots of potential options, but Waller, Devonte Adams, expensive. Actually, I don't really like the bringbacks on the Raiders at all. They're either too expensive. It's like, I don't like the running back. Devonte Adams, too expensive. So maybe no bringbacks there. Kyler Murray, really excited to play him week one. This is a guy who's at his best early in the season. It's just been, let me see if we get game logs from last year. I mean, yeah, look at the start of the season last year for Kyler Murray. It's because he comes out healthy, 35. I mean, monster games the first couple of weeks. He's healthy, and then he gets hurt, and then it starts to look bad. Doesn't produce on a points per dollar basis, but you give me these 34, 35 type weeks, I'll be very, very happy. And against a team like the Chiefs, I mean, they're going to need all the Kyler Murray they can get. So, yeah, let's get a little Kyler Murray in week one. Jalen Hurts, probably a good cash game play. It's a little cheaper than the rest. Jalen Hurts was every bit the fantasy producer that any of the top quarterbacks were. I mean, look at the fantasy points per game. It's not a bad reference to look at. Jalen Hurts averaged 21 plus fantasy points per game last season. He's right there with Kyler Murray and just under Herbert and Mahomes. So you get him for a little bit cheaper, and he has a lot of upside. When he's going off, I really like the addition of A.J. Brown. And when this guy's going off, I mean, he can easily put up 30 fantasy points, 2025. The salary has gotten up there to the point where he's now priced as a stud. Last season, we were able to get him for sort of middling salary most of the season. So I don't think he'll be the cheat code he was for us last year, but I still think he's a solid play and maybe playable in cash, though I still want to get a little bit cheaper at QB if I can. Aaron Rodgers is a no for me. I'm GPP only, I guess, but no, not without Devonte. Joe Burrow, low-scoring game. Not super excited about that one. To be honest, Trey Lance can be played at 7,500. Probably doesn't even need to be stacked. The running quarterbacks are always good. Derek Carr, not a guy that I need to see it with Derek Carr. I didn't get it last year. People were talking up, I guess other sites, other touts were talking up Derek Carr week after week. I didn't understand it. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? They're be better. They have Devonte Adams, but what? People were touting this guy. He peaks at 20, 21, 22 fantasy at 7,400. What? No. The only thing I like about this one is it's a high scoring game. So there's potential there, but I'd rather attack it with Herbert, to be honest. Kirk Cousins, I don't mind week one. Kirk Cousins is a fun quarterback because you always stack him with two, right? So we get Jefferson in the stack, but also Thielen or KJ Osborne or Irv Smith. It's a stack with two guy. And I like that game. High scoring. So Kirk Cousins really interesting at home week one. Daniel Jones is another guy. I know it's not a high scoring game, but Daniel Jones, let's just, he's healthy. He can put up a turd, which makes him very GPP only. Look at these horrible games. But, he got the 29, the 27. This guy has a good score every once in a while, and the coaching staff's a lot better this year. So, I don't hate Daniel Jones. Moving down the list, maybe Matt Ryan could be viable here for Indianapolis as a interesting tournament pivot off of the expected Jonathan Taylor chalk. What if it's not Taylor's day? What if it's Ryan to Pittman day? I don't mind it. I'll take some shots in tournaments, but definitely tournaments only. Justin Fields, no. Sorry, guys. I'm not ready for Justin Fields yet. Carson Wentz, same deal. Really not somebody I'm going to be too excited to use. Is there anybody down here that I think is usable? Mariota, okay. Why do I like Mariota? He runs a little bit with the football. Trying to see in game action from last year. Yeah, 4 rushing attempts, 2 rushing attempts. Felt like he came in a game last season and ran wild with the football, and they're just not showing it here. So I'm not buying these game logs. I don't know what this shit is. I know for a fact he came in for Derek Carr last year and ran wild. But Mariota is a player that has some rushing upside, rushing touchdown upside, and I find him interesting. Beyond that, revenge game Joe Flacco, I don't know. So I think we're going to be paying for one of these more expensive quarterbacks this week. I think the cheapest viable, it might be Trey Lance at 7,500. Maybe that's a viable cash game play. I don't think I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to pay up a little bit more, maybe grab a Kyler or a Jalen Hurts in my sort of hybrid lineups this week, and I'll try to save money elsewhere. All right, take a look at the running back position. So again, touchdowns are king on FanDuel. We want to get volume. It's less reception dependent. It's much more touchdown dependent. So Jonathan Taylor, sure, 10,200 should absolutely smash in this game, but at that salary, he damn well better smash. Derrick Henry, same difference. They say he's a late season guy. It's just all the metrics are there, right? They're at home. They're taking on the Giants. Giants aren't very good. I'll give you one of my favorites here in a minute, but the only negative is, again, the price point, 9,700, very expensive. Similar for Christian McCaffrey, low scoring game on paper, but Christian McCaffrey's a little more DraftKings PPR oriented, yardage, all of that. He's not the touchdown machine necessarily that Henry and Taylor are, but he's also a touchdown machine. My man scores touchdowns. He knows about the tutties. He's healthy early in the season. You want to play him while he's healthy. I don't care about anything else. Really, a lot of these decisions for me will come down to ownership projections. At the stud level on FanDuel, again, we can't really predict touchdowns that well. I mean, we can to a certain extent. We can look at the player props over on the Sharp app. Sharp app curates all of this information for us, but we can look at the player props and get the touchdown props and see who's most likely to score touchdowns that week. But we also have to balance that with salary and all these other things. So, and even because there's a prop, doesn't matter. Those are just percentages. Doesn't mean they will actually score. So ownership is much more important for me, and leveraging ownership at the running back position, especially in the stud zone up here, is the most important thing in tournaments. So we'll see where ownerships go. Austin Eckler, part of that great game. 9,400 is a little bit expensive for me for more of a PPR style back on FanDuel. He got 20 touchdowns last year, but I'm not counting on that. And I think he'd have a hard time really burning us at 9,400. He's got to score 9, 18, 27, 30-ish. All three of these guys need to score 30-ish fantasy points to really be in the conversation for helping you win a tournament. And, that's a lot of fantasy points on FanDuel. That's asking an awful lot. So I don't mind in tournaments trying to find cheaper guys that also go off this week. That's how you win the tournament. You don't really generally win tournaments when you take the elite running backs and they do kind of what they're expected to do. A, they tend to be high owned, but B, 30 points from Jonathan Taylor, that's not helping us. It's not hurting us, but it's not helping us. Now, if he has a 50-point explosion, which he'll do once every 6 or 7 weeks, sure. Or 8 weeks, sure. 45, 40, whatever. Maybe not 50. Maybe he never does. Yeah, there's a 50-pointer once a season. There we go. Let's take a look at his whole season last year. So, again, I mean, just take this in. Can you see this? He's priced at 10-2. Here are 2 games where he got 3x. A 2.5x, and then 1 5x. So basically, if you play Jonathan Taylor last year on FanDuel at this salary, there's 1, 2, 3 times where out of a full season where it was worth doing. So just keep that in mind. Don't feel the pressure to always play these guys. It's important to understand when they're the most expensive. These guys are great in cash games and they get you a lot of points and they're pretty consistent and they have high floors. But again, Derrick Henry, same difference. He got a 44-pointer one week, a 34. Those would have been pretty decent for the 9,700 salary. But the rest of the season, you would have been disappointed with the scores you were getting. So you don't have to. Paying this much is dangerous. Crazier than a bag of fucking angel dust. Sorry. Little biggie for you. All right. Anyway, so moving down from the 9K plus level, which again, it's not an area I love to live. I'll go there if there's enough value on the slate, but they have to outscore every other running back. So be careful. You're asking for a lot. Now, a guy I really do like a lot is Dalvin Cook. I just love the new role. I love the new look offense. I love that the team's at home. He's going to be one of my favorite pay up options this week. He might be lower owned than the rest. And if you take a look at Dalvin Cook, he's healthy early in the season. Again, I like how I think the Vikings are going to be using him, a little more rushing to the outside and just a little more passing game work in general. 8,400, 816, 24 needs more like 24 to 26 fantasy points to bring tournament winning value. Again, compared to the more expensive group that really needs to cross the 30. I don't think Dalvin Cook is any worse than any of Taylor, Henry, or McCaffrey, or Eckler, or Kamara, for that matter. Joe Mixon, he's a bit more boomer bust than some other players. I don't love the matchup, but he is at home. And if he's going to be super low owned, Joe Mixon was part of 6 Millie Maker tournament winning lineups last season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all 6 of these weeks. And, part of the reason that happened with Joe Mixon is because he has these up and down weeks. He's the ultimate tournament play. When he's not smashing, he's kind of ruining your team. 6, 7, 9. I mean, look what he does. He punishes you in the weeks where he doesn't go off. So Mixon, absolutely, he is the epitome of GPP only player. Tournaments only. Don't fuck with him in cash. Don't screw with this guy, even in hybrids. Tournament only Joe Mixon. He will propel you to some tournament wins, but he comes off the field when his team falls behind. I don't think his team's falling behind in this game, but he does come off the field in passing situations. He's not a good pass protector. It's that simple. Can't block. Najee Harris, again, 8,200. Okay. Full workload guy, lots of volume. Not in love with the team situation, not in love with the game total here. So, but Najee Harris is going to give you lots of volume for 8,200. I don't mind that. Nick Chubb, another guy. No one likes to play Nick Chubb. He's going to be super low owned. He will pop off every once in a while, although I still think his salary is a little bit higher than where it should be. But Chubb is a much better play here on FanDuel compared to DraftKings because he's just a touchdown guy. Problem is Hunt comes in and steals those touchdowns. Now, if you're not playing Kyler Murray and you think Arizona is going to have a good game, you have to play Connor. It's one or the other. Kyler Murray's either rushing for those touchdowns, he's taking them, or he's throwing for them, or Connor's getting them. They don't have any other running backs on the team. I really like Connor, 7,700. That was a kick in the ass to me on Connor, how expensive he was. It actually made me raise him up in my fantasy football season-long rankings. So I don't mind Connor here, but he's usually better later in the season when Kyler Murray gets hurt and they don't want to run Murray as much, especially around the goal line, and that's when Connor actually starts scoring touchdowns. Deandre Swift, a bit of a boomer bust guy, PPR guy, might not be super high owned on FanDuel, but when he does pop off, he can win you a tournament as well. So, he had a 24-pointer, a couple 20-pointers, 19, 7, 14, 21, 23, 24 points for tournament winning value at this salary level. So he's right there. Aaron Jones, another guy. He's a touchdown machine with Aaron Rodgers when Devonte Adams isn't in the game. I don't mind Aaron Jones, even the fact that he's splitting with A.J. Dillon. It doesn't matter. I'm fine with it. 7,400, reasonable price. Josh Jacobs, not for me. Antonio Gibson, playable at 6,800 with no, he went all, well, I already made that joke, so I'm not going to make it again. But basically, Brian Robinson's out for a little bit. Antonio Gibson, by default, back to the starting running back position. And, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. So, and it's against Jacksonville, and Washington's at home, and no one's going to play him. There's a lot of reasons to actually be interested in Antonio Gibson week 1. One of my favorite plays, though, is Saquon Barkley. Healthy Saquon Barkley, 6,800. Love the price point. This is a guy, slot him right into your lineup. Boom. Now, it's not a high-scoring projected game. The Giants are on the road, but I think they're going to come out and do their thing. I think they're going to come out and be competent. And Saquon Barkley is just locked and loaded. He's going to get all the touches. The volume will be there. Obviously, he needs the touchdown to make it matter, to make it work. But again, now we're down to 6,800 where we 7, 14, 21 fantasy points, tournament winning value. Does not take that much for Quan to get to 20 fantasy points. All he needs is the touchdown. Even here, bunch of receptions, touchdown, no big deal. He can get there. He could see 8 or 9 targets in this game. He'll get, 15, 17 carries. He's just locked and loaded. And I love that he's 2 years removed from that ACL surgery. He's in his, he should be at full strength. Eli Mitchell, let's monitor his health situation. But if he's playing, I'm always interested in him. He's a touchdown guy. He's a perfect FanDuel guy. Look at the volume he got last season. 27 carries, 21, 21, 22, 27, 27. That's great volume, 25 points. No one ever plays this guy. He just needs the touchdown. 100 yards, touchdown. Smash. He even gets some passing game work. I like Eli Mitchell. I think he's sneaky good week in and week out. Moving down, Cordell Patterson, okay. Dave Montgomery, okay as well. Not super excited, but I think playable at 6,600. Breece Hall with the Jets looks like he's going to be splitting time with Michael Carter. I don't love that. Snacks Harris, he's at his best in a game where the Patriots are absolutely going to dominate. I'm not sure that's what we're seeing here. Travis Etienne is interesting week one. I'm waiting to hear more about James Robinson to see how much he's likely to play. Man, I thought Etienne was going to be a beast this year. And if we find, Achilles, what's the story? He's trying to be ready. His goal is to be ready for week one. We'll see. We'll see. If Robinson is out, I'm loading up on Etienne. If Robinson plays, I'll still play some Etienne. I like the price, 6,200. Lots of passing game work. Travis Etienne, a lot of people think he is small. He's not. He's a full-size running back. He's not some scat back. This guy got Alvin Kamara size. He's good size running back. AJ Dillon at 6,100, I think, is also an interesting tournament play. The volume isn't there for cash games for me, but interesting as a little tournament play. And of course, a couple other names here I'm going to mention before we get to our free square. But Chase Edmonds, worth a shot, I guess. I usually don't play running backs against New England, so tournament only. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's a lot of hopium there if you're playing him that they're going to feed him and he'll get the goal line carries and he'll get some extra work. And I don't know. I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. Very risky. Very risky. One guy I'm very excited about, though, starting running back, Houston Texans, Dameon Pierce, 5,400. All right. Listen. 5,400. 5, 10, 15K, maybe 16.5. So we need 16.5 Fanduel points for him to deliver tournament winning score. And a tournament winning score, just to clarify what I'm doing there, is Fanduel, we usually consider 3x salary as where you need to be in the conversation to help your team to a tournament win. DraftKings, it's 4x, but you need to do more than that generally. Like it's a bare minimum. So on the cheaper players, like a guy like this, you actually really need, if he's going to truly help you win a tournament, you probably need to be closer to 24x or 20 fantasy points. Because on FanDuel, you need about 200 fantasy points, maybe 190 to win a tournament. On DraftKings, it's more like 250. So I use these 3x and 4x rules of thumb. But 3x on FanDuel is much more for those expensive players, the Derrick Henrys, where you're hoping for 30 points. At the cheaper level, you really need 4x. So Dameon Pierce needs to get us about 20 fantasy points. And hey, he's starting at the running back position for the Texans. They don't really have much competition. I guess Rex Burkhead is there. We'll see how much they play him. I really like Dameon Pierce week one as a value play that won't take much, especially if they throw to him a couple times. But 100 yards and a touchdown is already 16. And if he gets a couple receptions, 30 yards, that crosses 20 and really gets us tournament winning scoring. So he's going to be, I don't know how popular he'll be. Generally, I find that on FanDuel, the cheap running backs that are extreme value are less owned than they should be. So a lot of people, you donkey, you're playing the free square. No one else does. He probably won't be more than 25% owned in the big tournament. So got to get leverage. I'm going over most likely on Pierce, assuming that I decide, this style of build is what I want to do. All right, taking a quick look at wide receiver. Devonte Adams' first game with Carr. He's priced up. It's a little risky to pay up. Devo Samuel, same thing, low-scoring game. He can score in a lot of different ways, but there's a little bit of risk paying all the way up to 8,400 for a wide receiver. Like that's not a volume guy, he's a touchdowns guy, but again, that works on FanDuel, so it's worth a shot. Tournaments. Jamar Chase, probably similar to Adams and Samuel, GPP upside galore. Week one, and probably a fairly safe floor, although, they're wide receivers. The floors are never super safe. Justin Jefferson, I do think, has actually a safe floor and is probably the best play in this zone at 8,100. Second guy being drafted off the board, and yet here he is, the fourth most expensive salary. I just think FanDuel is a little bit off on how they set up the salaries here. Tyreek Hill at 7,700, definitely a tournament play. Has never played with that team, but teams tend to feed their studs. So I think Tyreek will get his, but I don't know if he's got that same upside he had with Mahomes. Keenan Allen, not a touchdown guy. He's usually not somebody I play on FanDuel. Is reserved more for DraftKings for me. Pittman, sure. 7,200 seems reasonable. Brown, same deal. I love him with Hurts. I don't mind him as a standalone play, but I definitely like him more with Hurts or in stacks built around this Philly-Detroit game. McLaurin, new quarterback. He could pop off at any time for 7K. Definitely a touchdown guy too, so I don't mind that. T. Higgins for sure. Marquise Brown, again, part of this Arizona game. Somebody I'll be targeting this week pretty heavily, I think, in my Kyler Murray stacks. But again, Kyler Murray, I like Brown even more because I'm hearing Zach Ertz might not play. He's questionable right now. It's early in the week. But if Zach Ertz doesn't, those targets got to go somewhere. We can even look at Rondale Moore as part of that Arizona backfield. Waddle's just fine. Deontay, not a FanDuel guy either for me. I need touchdown scorers for the most part. Mike Williams is somebody I'm very interested in. 6,600. Highest game total on the slate. He also has a history of kind of starting off strong last season. He had a bunch of good games. It's not that strong, 18. He's 6,600, 6, 12, 18, 19.5. So between, he averaged, look at these 5 games, 4 of the 5, like he was just crushing his salary. Now he'll get you a dud, but overall, Mike Williams is a great play week 1. He's one of my favorite plays. He makes the list, right? Amon-Ra, Sun God, St. Brown, 6,500. I don't mind it. Lazard, okay. Juju, sure, why not? 6,400. What a cheap price. DJ Moore for 6,400, I think, is bananas. That's a great price. That's a value. You can get a lot of great values at the wide receiver position in week 1 and just kind of load up on more expensive players elsewhere. I'm going to kind of show you how that works, but we'll just keep going through it. Adam Thielen, great stack with Cousins candidate. Michael Thomas, maybe it's too soon week 1 for him, but he's interesting. Rashad Bateman, I love in this spot. Again, 61. Are you kidding me? All of these guys. Put him Rashad Bateman, WR3, right? I'm trying to get my favorites on screen here, my favorite values across the board. Elijah Moore is playable with Joe Flacco at the helm. So Christian Kirk, yes. Tons of targets for Christian Kirk as well. Devontae Parker, possibly the number 1 wide receiver for New England here. No one's going to play him, 0 ownership, so keep him in mind. And that's just about it for me at the wide receiver position. Maybe Bobby Trees, Robert Woods might carry some interest. Tournament stacks of Valdez-Scantling with Mahomes. Why not? Kadarius Toney, I kind of like him. I think he'll be the number 1 wide receiver for the Giants this year. And again, 5,300. So some great salary saving options. You could basically do whatever you want on FanDuel this week. They set it up so that you can kind of play whoever you want. So real quick, what I do on defense always on all of these tournaments, both sides, I just like to get a cheap one. I don't really care which one it is all that much, but it should be lower cost. Here I got Minnesota at home against the Packers. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is a turnover guy, but again, he had that bad game last year, week 1, so it's worth a shot. If I had to actually pick a defense that I thought, was in a legit good spot, FanDuel prices their defenses really well, so you kind of have to pay all the way up for some of these defenses here. And I'm just not going to do it. Titans, all the defenses going up against, like the Colts at 4,500. If I had to pay up, that's probably where I'm going. Cincinnati can be played at 4,400 as well. They're going up against who the hell knows at quarterback for the Steelers. So a few different options, but I usually just go with the cheap defense. I think that's the most honest thing you can do because that's how I generally play. All right. So tight end position. There's a tale of two cities, right? There's basically two guys up top here in Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews that are worth paying up for, but you have to pay up a shitload. I don't like paying up this much for tight ends, but I don't mind doing it for these guys when I can. If I'm not paying up for those two, I'm really ignoring Waller. I'm ignoring George Kittle. He's just no. And then I'm hanging out in this zone right here with I guess Kittle. I guess you could include, but really I don't. And I guess Waller is cheap enough that no, he's in a weird place at 7K. I'm not down with that. But Goddard is my favorite of this group. But Hawkinson and Pitts all right around 6K, 5,700, all good. That's where I'm going. I don't think you need to even dig any deeper than that. No reason. Don't bother. Cole Kmet maybe at 5K if you absolutely need it. But this is FanDuel. I mean, this is FanDuel. You don't have to dig too deep. So I throw in Dallas Goedert. Okay. Now I'm starting to think, let me do a little bit of lineup construction here. So here you've got a pretty good lineup, but I've got a ton of salary left over. Even when I throw in a QB, I got a ton of salary left over, right? So this is where we can start to get creative and say, oh, all right, you know what? I told you earlier I love Dalvin Cook. Let's get him in the game, right? And then we've got still 3,400 left over, which means we can upgrade another spot. I can either go with an elite tight end or pick one of these wide receivers. I can go with an elite running back instead of one of these 5, 6, 7, 8, 9K. So I can get to an elite running back. But what I might do here is switch out, a DJ Moore at that low scoring game, let's say for, a Justin Jefferson type, right? Now I don't want, if I have Dalvin Cook and Jefferson on the same team, it may be not the best move. So I'd need Green Bay players, but I don't really like anyone from Green Bay. So let's kind of do it a little different here. Let's say I like Jefferson. So here I could just throw in probably, I was hoping I can get to Jonathan Taylor. Didn't quite get there, but you get the idea. Goddard with Hurts. If I'm doing this, I probably want to build a little bit more of a game stack. So I might use Amon-Ra. Here we go. And this is a lineup that fits. Hurts, Goddard, come back to Amon-Ra. We got our stud in Justin Jefferson. Another stud WR1 underpriced in Rashad Bateman. Jonathan Taylor, stud running back on the slate. Saquon Barkley, high end running back. Damian Pierce, salary saver. This is a pretty good line. I'm playing it. I'm doing it. All right, guys. That's your FanDuel first look NFL Week 1. Remember, check back in every week. I've got FanDuel first look, DraftKings first look. We're doing the game plan on Wednesdays every single week where we break down every game from a fantasy and betting perspective with some of the best DFS players in the industry joining the show. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel for that. We've got a ton of content coming out this season. I can't even describe it all, but make sure you get to DFS Army, sign up with promo code preseason right now, and you get the full 12-month DFS Army VIP treatment. Happy ending included. All for just $199 for the entire 12-month period. That's a full season of DFS, of best ball, of season. It's all included. One price. And if you want all of your DFS needs taken care of one place, full VIP, 10% off with promo code Geek. It's, I think, $62 after the 10% off per month. We're half the price of lesser sites. I don't want to name those sites, but you know who they are. We're half the price of the other sites because the mission at DFS Army is turning average Joes into DFS pros. We're doing that every single day with our member. You see those helmets taking turn. You see these helmets. You see them taking down tournaments. These guys taking down tournaments. Look at the leaderboard in whatever contest you're in right now on FanDuel, on DraftKings, where you're playing. You're going to see those helmets up top. That's what we do. We crush the competition. Average Joes, leveling the playing field against DFS pros. It's time to join us. See what the hype is all about. Again, promo code preseason, 12 months of NFL for just $199. That's best deal going. Optimizer, cheat sheets, everything you need. Or if you want to sign up for full VIP, we got college football going, NASCAR, every sport day. We're the best in the industry. NASCAR, everybody knows it. College football, no one comes close. It's all included. $69.99 plus 10% off. You lock in. Get signed up at DFS Army right now. Promo code Geek. I'll see you guys next time on another FanDuel First Look. Deuces, everybody.